When you ask someone what their favorite Cartoon Network show is, the answer will tend to vary a little. Adventure Time, Regular Show, Ed, Edd n Eddy, Courage, shows that have gotten a ton of love both back when they first premiered and years after their run has ended. They're basically the very pieces of televised media that have defined Cartoon Network's identity over time. But if you were to ask me what my favorite shows from Cartoon Network are, most of them are the ones that aren't as loved or didn't last that long on the station, with Gumball being the only exception. And among these personal fave programs of mine would be a show that only lasted 13 episodes, yet managed to gain an ongoing following online for a multitude of factors, both regarding the contents of the show itself as well as how it became the subject of lost media. That show is...
Whatever happened to...
Robot Jones.
All systems are go.
Now, you might look at the show on the surface and immediately ask, really? You sure? This is one of your favorite Cartoon Network originals? Which, to be fair, it may not look like much with how it looks and the fact that its protagonist is a robot, but trust me when I say that there is way more to Robot Jones beyond its surface level. How did this show come about? What was the relationship between it and its network of origin throughout its production? And how did it manage to gain some traction years after cancellation? Fingers crossed that I'm able to answer all these questions as I go over the unauthorized story of whatever happened to Robot Jones. Our story begins with Greg Miller, who has earned an internship from Hanna-Barbera Studios while attending the University of the Arts in Philadelphia, and has since dropped out of said university in 1994 to work as a storyboard artist on Dexter's Laboratory, the first ever cartoon from Cartoon Network's world premiere Toons program to become a full series. Other animated programming he has done storyboard work for include, but not limited to, Cow and Chicken, Cat Dog, and Nightmare Ned, the latter of whom being based on the then-developed computer game with the same name. Along the way, Miller came up with an idea for his own cartoon, one that might spark the interest of the higher-ups at Cartoon Network to give it a try. That cartoon involved... pirates.
Do what you want, 'cause a pirate is free. You are a pirate.
Yes, Greg Miller's very first cartoon idea he pitched was a show about pirates. But at the time, Cartoon Network didn't want to bring that concept to life.
Because, pirates are evil, brah!
Actually, the reason for this is because the network had a list of cartoons they didn't want to make, pirates being one of them. But the pitch was still very well liked enough, so Miller had to come up with something completely different in response, which led to his next big cartoon idea being about a baby robot growing up to overthrow humanity. After a week of scribbling around what could be done with this premise before pitching it to the higher-ups, Whatever Happened to Robot Jones was born. But just because you pitched an idea doesn't mean it has been fully realized yet. Whatever Happened to Robot Jones went through a ton of ideas that were ping-ponged between the creatives and executives throughout its early stages of development, including some changes in character designs, story revisions, as well as the overall set piece, since at one point, some executives suggested that the main character should live with a human family, but that never went anywhere beyond this piece of concept that Greg made in response. Regardless of what came and went, the only aspects of this cartoon that didn't change throughout at all is who Robot Jones is, what his goals are, and the tribulations he has to face in order to get things done.
On CCF, your host is Johnny Bravo.
Hello, Mama.
And check out the new cartoon, Whatever Happened to Robot Jones? The first day of school can be hard for anyone. If you're a robot and everyone thinks you're weird, it can be even harder. We've also got a brand new episode of Johnny Bravo.
Right. I'm real.
So join Johnny this Friday at 7:30 for Cartoon Fridays, only on Cartoon Network.
The first pilot produced for Whatever Happened to Robot Jones premiered on Friday, June 16th in the year 2000. This was part of Cartoon Network's Voice Your Choice weekend, where during Cartoon Fridays, one of 10 animated pilots will be broadcast and viewers get the chance to vote for which one they think has the potential to become a full series during the 25th through 27th of August. The pilot follows the titular Robot Jones attending his first day of studying humans by going to school, despite his hesitation to commit to his programming at first, as evident by the conversation he has with his mother.
Warning. The school bus has arrived. Time to depart, son.
Negative. I am not going to junior high school.
While at school, the staff expresses annoyance towards Robot, mainly due to him, well, being a robot. This especially ticks off the school's principal as he gives Robot detention after tripping on his charging wire in the cafeteria, in which Robot did not take well.
If you're staying after school with me, we'll teach you a little respect.
Just when he thought all hope was lost for him to continue his study on humans, Robot ends up changing his mind the moment a young girl stepped into the picture, whom he considers the most fascinating aspect of the human species before recapping his overall thoughts on his first day of school.
Final analysis. I compute these humans need more study. A lot more study. More study. More study. More study.
Since this is Miller's first rodeo, his first attempt at bringing his cartoon idea to full realization, I personally think the Robot Jones pilot turned out pretty good. It managed to live up to what the creator had envisioned as it focuses on the conflicts Robot would face during his first time studying human life and what they're capable of. It's also one of those pilots that basically go over the origins of what would eventually be the blueprint for how the full series would play out, similar to other animated pilots that came before and after the release of the Robot Jones pilot. Keep in mind that this is Miller's second cartoon pitch after learning that pirate cartoons weren't something Cartoon Network was looking for back then. If anything, he got pretty lucky.
Precious booty!
The Whatever Happened to Robot Jones pilot would end up being one of the 3 finalists for the Voice Your Choice weekend, now named The Big Pick, alongside the pilots for both Billy and Mandy and Longhair and Double Dome. By the end of the summer, the Billy and Mandy pilot would become the declared winner, making up 57% of the voting, placing the Robot Jones pilot at second place with 23%, and the Longhair and Double Dome pilot at third place with the remaining 20%. While being so close yet so far from being the Big Pig champion, Cartoon Network would be kind enough to give the Robot Jones project another chance, mostly due to still being fond of the show's concept. So a second pilot was made as a result.
Whatever happened to Robot Jones?
Produced in 2001 as evident by the dates marked on these official model sheets, the second pilot would take Robot Jones back to school, where he'd first meet what would eventually become his friends in the full series, as well as having his first encounter with the antagonistic Yogman twins, Lenny and Denny, a pair of evil geniuses and long-lost cousins of Fanboy and Chum Chum, who want to use Robot's brain to complete their latest invention.
Meet the ultimate robot friend, the key to our school domination, Yogbot X!
Not the kind of Xbox prototype I was expecting from Microsoft, but it'll do. With help from his new friends, Robot finally manages to get his brain back, albeit at the cost of ending up in detention.
Some friend? You got us stuck in detention with you.
Duh. This pilot is most notable for introducing a few things that would be engraved into the full series we've come to know of, including the introduction of the soon-to-be friends of Robot, Mitchell Davis, aka Mitch, and Charles Cubernacle, aka Cubie, the first instance of the Yogman twins playing a major role in the storyline as they were minor characters in the previous pilot, as well as the change in visuals with some redesigns of certain characters being more major than others. Overall, fun stuff all things considered. With the 2 animated pilots lasting a total of 7 minutes each, Greg assumed that another segment would be needed to complete the show's format before getting the green light, which is where the idea for the Groovesicle segments come to play. The overall purpose of the Groovesicle is to cap off each airing of Robot Jones with a little music video that plays within the fictional TV show of the same name. However, Cartoon Network wasn't too fond of the concept surrounding the Groovesicle as they described it as too crazy. But that doesn't mean all hope was lost, as the crew did manage to put together one Groovesicle segment as a little sampler of what could have been. The Nudist and Mr. Pendleton.
The nudist and Mr. Pendleton, gonna beat it on down the road. One is new and one's a dog. They're no losers.
While this absolute banger of a track was performed by the fictional Lavender Fudge Experience, the song was actually done by Greg Miller's own band, The Invisible Car, a band that has done the music for both the pilots and would eventually carry over to make more for the full series. So, after years of doodling and developing this idea into the little engine that could, in the form of a pair of pilots as well as an extra musical cherry on top of this fully animated sundae, it was about time for Whatever Happened to Robot Jones to finally enter production as a full series, with its initial premiere on Friday, July 19th, 2002 as part of Cartoon Network's aforementioned Cartoon Fridays block.
Here's an early look at Cartoon Network's newest series, Whatever Happened to Robot Jones. I shall complete my daily programming with flying colors.
Fantastic! You know, the rest of you could learn a lot from Jones here.
Whatever happened to Robot Jones? Premieres tonight at 9:30, part of Cartoon Fridays, only on Cartoon Network.
Taking place in an alternate future where man and machine coexist, 12-year-old robot Electro Jones is set out to Polynew Middle School as a way for him to learn about the culture surrounding human life. Along his journey, he has made some friends, he has made some enemies, and would even develop a crush on a girl named Shannon Westerberg, and due to her appearance consisting of a piece of headgear and a prosthetic leg. Each episode would have the titled character participating in things that are considered commonplace with the Homo sapien species as part of his studies, such as going out to a dance, running for class president, working out in the school gym, etc. Robot would then cap off his research in the form of his data log entries, expressing what he's learned from all of it. One episode I'd like to highlight is Growth Spurts, in which Robot Jones modifies his body so that he can be able to join the basketball team.
Robot with your legs so tall, help us win at basketball.
Stick with me on this, but I remember catching some airings of the Super Globetrotters, one of the two cartoons based on the Harlem Globetrotters on Boomerang as a kid. The superhero alter ego of Dunbar, Gizmo, is notable for his giant afro containing an infinite supply of gadgets. I bring this up because I feel like the only one who thinks this form Robot has during the basketball sequence in this episode resembles Gizmo in some way. But that does not mean Robot Jones doesn't have any form of cultural influence whatsoever, because the show has a lot of it in its ink and paint coated DNA. For one, the show takes place in the 1980s decade, including certain scenes taking place in an arcade, the Yogmans wearing Devo hats, most of the background music consisting of chiptune, and then there's Cube Wars, an entire episode that is dedicated to its Rubik's Cube parody, The Wonder Cube. In addition, there's the scene where Robot goes on a hallucinogenic trip involving this creature.
Hello, everybody!
This little gremlin that Tom Kenny voices is actually in reference to the 1980s Saturday morning cartoon series, Rubik the Amazing Cube, produced by Ruby Spears. Said sequence also references the band that performed the theme song for Rubik, Menudo. All I can say about this 80s relic is that it exists. That's for sure. You can also find some cultural influence in the most talked about aspect of the show, the animation. At the time, the early Cartoon Network originals were visually inspired by the likes of Hanna-Barbera and the United Pictures of America, or UPA. Simple shape language, minimal palette, thick outlines, and heavy emphasis on cubism. Meanwhile, Robot Jones's visuals goes for something completely different in its art direction. It is primarily influenced by cartoons in the 70s and 80s, the most notable of which being the educational musical series, Schoolhouse Rock. In other words, the show is among the few I can think of that is crude on purpose with its imperfect line work, sketchy shading, and very messy backgrounds. It is also worth pointing out that Robot Jones would be one of the last animated projects to be produced using traditional cells. At a time when cartoons were either done digitally or just started switching to computers in order to make the animation process much easier and cheaper to put together. The best I could compare the show's visuals is to that of Nickelodeon's early animated projects, as in, they resemble the kind of doodles you would place on your school notebook out of boredom. In addition, the show would tend to feature some blurbs in certain scenes reminiscent of any comic you can think of, whether it be on your latest newspaper issue or at a store near you. It's elements like these that makes the show's identity stand out among its peers. Even the show's intro, the visual opener that usually plays before starting the episode proper, has some cultural DNA within its presentation, as it is in reference to the opening to the children's sketch comedy series, You Can't Do That on Television. In addition, the character of Samuel Madman, the technophobic principal of Polynew, was based on the character actor Les Lie played on You Can't Do That on Television, specifically Mr. Schindler.
You know, Justin, if I had been alive in Sir Isaac Newton's time, I would have invented the belt. Just to use on you!
Greg was going to have Les Lie to provide the voice of Principal Madman, but that never came into fruition. Instead, Madman would be voiced by Maurice LaMarche in the first pilot.
Well, Mr. Jones, the amazing robot in my office
yet again.
And then Jeff Bennett in the full series.
Take the flu shot and save me from the pirates.
Also, before any of you out there watching this point this out, I'd like to give out this reminder that any resemblance Principal Madman has to Charlie Chaplin's evil German twin is purely a coinkydink. Even Greg himself said so via his Twitter.
As Nick takes over Salwan, yabba-dabba-doo.
What I find quite interesting about Principal Madman's character is that despite him being very restrictive in nature, since he takes charge of anything and everything in Polynew, he can also be a bit of a buffoon at times, and any attempt of him knocking Robot down a peg would immediately backfire. A prime and personal favorite example of this is in the episode Sickness, where Madman thought he caught the computer virus after Robot violently puked all over the place.
Oh no! It's worse than I thought. The computer virus is spreading!
While on the topic of characters, the rest of the cast in Robot Jones is pretty solid. The three humans Robot is commonly shown to be friends with would often help lecture him on certain human activities, behaviors, etc. With Timothy Morton, aka Socks, being the leading force as he would usually be the first to inform Robot in regard to what humans like to do on a daily basis. Small tangent, but I do wish there was an episode on how Socks and Robot first met, so that their relationship status would make a bit more sense. We already got a good look at how Robot first encountered Mitch and QB as shown in Electric Boogaloo, so why not do something similar with Socks? Another character that Robot commonly interacts with is his crush, Shannon. Shannon's relationship status with Robot is played off as a very will they, won't they kind of deal, as it was a common writing trait among most cartoons around the time the show came out. Not to mention the fact that her character varies from episode to episode. Some episodes would portray Shannon being more passive towards Robot, while other times she would be annoyed about his presence. The latter of which mostly being the result of Robot fumbling his attempts at playing it cool.
Oh, time for class. See you later, Shannon.
Not saying that Shannon's a bad character in general. I do like some of the times she's interacted with Robot, though I can understand why some would consider her a bit unpleasant or even uncomfy to sit through. We also have Robot's parents, Mom and Dad Unit, who encouraged their kid to study human life, as it is part of his programming.
Robot, you must make friends.
Request denied.
Listen to your mother, listen to your mother.
And while the two can act passive-aggressive towards their surroundings at times, especially in regards to Dad Unit's behavior, they still care about their family at the end of the day. As for our star of the show, Robot Jones, he is definitely an interesting case of an animated protagonist. He's one of those fish out of water kind of characters, as he's mainly programmed to document the everyday lives of humans, but it's not in a, wow, the human world is so fascinating and I'd love to know more way. It is more so along the lines of, yeah, it's nice and all seeing what human life is capable of, but I'm not a fan of how full of themselves they can be sometimes. Sure, he has made friends and even has a crush, however, he is more proud of expressing how superior he is to the species he tends to collect data on, as evident by the conversations he has had with his family, how he is able to ace certain subjects that the other students struggle to keep up with, and would often express his distaste towards certain human activities at times.
I just wanted to know if you wanted to come to my after-school pool party.
No thanks.
In other words, he is quite conflicted on the existence of humanity in general. Interested, but not too enthusiastic about it.
So we're not about to address the elephant in the room?
While we're still talking about Robot, I think it's finally time to address the big elephant in the room. And that has to do with the most distinguishing feature in regard to this character, and that is his voice. As far back as the original pitch, Greg has always wanted to make the main protagonist have a speak and spell kind of voice whenever he starts to talk. During production, Greg would look into different programs to figure out how he's going to bring that aspect of Robot's character to life. After some time, he ended up using the official Microsoft Word 98 text-to-speech function, specifically the junior voice, on his Macintosh since it had the specialized controls needed to get the vocal acting just right.
I found Word 98 had this weird text-to-speech program, but it had all these controls. And it was like speed and emphasis and modulation. So when I did Robot, it was I had to take the script and feed it through and listen to it, feed it through this blindly through this program and hear how it would say it.
Why can't you function more like the long unit portrayed on television? Sigh. Oh no. Great. Now I missed my bus.
Every episode was me going through and making Robot talk.
But then something big happened during production of Season 2. According to Greg Miller, in the multiple interviews he has held over the years, the recordings for Robot's text-to-speech voice was completed and ready to be implemented into the episodes for the cartoon's second season. But the executives that operated Cartoon Network at the time weren't fond of the voice used for the main character, often expressing how freaked out they were at how weird it sounded. Miller also brought up how those said executives held focus groups in regards to the text-to-speech voice used for Robot Jones in order to determine if kids liked it or not. At some point, Mike Lazo, who was very supportive of Greg Miller around the time, had a talk in regards to wanting to change the voice, as he compared this to how focus groups changed the character of Bugs Bunny.
Listen, Greg, so back in the 40s, you know Bugs Bunny. Bugs Bunny originally, he was more like a rabbit. He was more like hunched over like a rabbit. He kind of sounded like a rabbit. He acted like a rabbit. But then there was focus groups, and focus groups said that kids don't like rabbits. And we're going to make him more like a human. So they changed him into being the Bugs Bunny that we know today.
From a rabbit to a bunny.
From a rabbit to a bunny.
To be fair, focus groups did exist as far back as the 1940s, but that was originally used for market research in regard to radio soap operas. Either way you put it, what Lasso said there was complete bullshit, a huge insult to Greg's vision, and a testament of how manipulative higher-ups of any industry can be in regards to what they think consumers want rather than actually paying attention. What does Lazo think he's even part of anyways? Cartoon Network? Or whatever fucking political party best suits him? I don't care if it's Democratic or Republican. Fuck him for that very thing he said to Greg alone.
And then the woman came around and was like, I hate this cartoon. This is the biggest piece of shit I've ever seen. Like, oh, by the way, have you met the creator? Who's sitting right here?
Anyways, in an attempt to give the main character a more Hollywood-sounding voice, auditions were held as the network went through multiple kids trying to figure out who will be the voice of Robot Jones moving forward. In the end, they chose child actor Bobby Block to be given the role.
Here is a comparison between the two robot voices.
Dad unit, please. I am fully capable of running my own systems check. This is highly embarrassing. Please, Dad unit.
Dad unit, please! I am fully capable of running my own systems check. This is highly embarrassing. Please, Dad unit.
Despite the change in casting, Greg did state that he has VHS tapes that contain several Season 2 episodes with the original voice intact, somewhere in the vault. So who knows when they will all have the chance of materializing in the future. Okay, before moving on like normal, I thought I'd quickly share a personal unpopular opinion in regard to this cartoon. I actually prefer Bobby Block's voice for Robot Jones over the text-to-speech one. Don't get me wrong, the Word 98 voice used in the pre-Season 2 era of the show definitely made the character stand out audibly against the rest of the cast. But I feel like the only aspect of that voice that is holding me back from liking it has to do with the fact that the tone used doesn't fit the character's age. Robot is basically a kid attending middle school, yet the automated voice makes him sound a little older than he actually is. As awful as the executives were explaining their reasons in regard to changing that part of the character, for once, I actually agree with them. In other words, Bobby's voice fits Robot Jones more in my personal opinion. Plus, I like to interpret this as a little headcanon, that Robot got that from his mom unit's genes, since she's also voiced by a human. We'll return to talk more about Robot Jones after a short break.
We'll be right back to Whatever Happened to Robot Jones, part of Summer Fridays, only on Cartoon Network.
Now back to an all-new Whatever Happened to Robot Jones on Cartoon Friday.
Hello, friend. Have you been wondering whatever happened to Robot Jones? From Pauline Middle School? That's me, third from the left. And that's Shannon Westergaard. Isn't she beautiful?
Digital dork.
Too bad she fell for that hairy jerk Frederico. It's a good thing I had friends like you and Socks and Mitch and Hubie.
This cafeteria food tastes like fried bark.
Remember popping zits in the bathroom? Starting our own band? That time I fell in love with the Scantron machine and did push-ups with the jockstrap on my head, and everyone laughed at me. Well, enough fond memories. I just wanted to tell you I'm headed back to good old Pauline Middle School. It's an all-new episode of Whatever Happened to Robot Jones, Friday at 11. Part of the new Fridays on Cartoon Network. Wait, what am I saying? Junior high school stinks. Don't make me go back there. I'm just a robot.
Season 2 of Whatever Happened to Robot Jones made its initial premiere on Friday, October 3rd, 2003, as part of Cartoon Fridays rebranding to simply Fridays. Second verse, same as the first, but what distinguishes this season from the last one are the topics that are being discussed in each episode. While the first season covers simple topics such as getting sick, getting jealous of not receiving attention, and facing one's fears, the second season, on the other hand, tackles more complicated subject matter this time. Not along the lines of solving the Pythagorean theorem, but still challenging regardless. These include, but not limited to, family vacation, involving the Jones family spending their first spring break together alongside socks. Wacky hijinks ensue, featuring Macho Man Randy Savage guest starring as one of the bikers.
You're mine, Peanut Crunchy. I'm gonna eat you, candy bar. Oh yeah, get over here.
Huh?
The episode Safety Patrol has Robot go full-on dictator mode when he's put in charge of hall monitor duty at Polynew. No offense to SpongeBob and Jimmy Neutron, but those guys got nothing on how insane Robot gets when he's put in charge of inspecting his surroundings.
Wait, you really had me going. You're such a joker.
Intentional disregard for the late bell is not a joke, buddy.
The episode Work is where Robot decides to partake in child labor in order to earn some money. And it would be an absolute fool of me to not bring up this episode in regard to talking about Season 2, that being Gender. Inarguably the most talked about episode of the entire series, about Robot struggling to figure out which group he enjoys hanging out with the most, boys or girls. This conflict between the two sexes would end up having Robot conclude that they're no different from one another, and that he should rather be himself than pick a side.
Final analysis. Girls and boys are basically the same. Bickering, inefficient, leaky humans.
It is an interesting take on the concept of gender dysphoria, which I'm sure some of you out there watching have experienced in your life. Each perspective handles how they feel about their identity, and even if you've already figured yourself out, Robot's character here might still resonate with you to some degree. Today, a ton of stories involve themes surrounding one's identity and how they express that aspect of them. But back in the early 2000s, when this episode premiered, it was quite the rarity to witness. Granted, Robot Jones wasn't the first animated series to delve into this kind of subject, but it did still manage to leave an impression to this day. As new episodes continued to air, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the show officially got cancelled with the final episode Summer Camp and Rules of Dating premiering on Friday, November 14th, 2003, both of which have Robot attempting to impress Shannon in different scenarios and failing miserably. Not a proper way to end the series, but hey, that's the animation industry for ya. With the show's plug being pulled immediately, this leaves several episodes left incomplete, as in the team wanted to tell more stories before getting axed by the network at the last minute. These include Obsession, involving a talk show spoofing Oprah Winfrey, with the only known material to come out of this are these storyboards posted by writer Chuck Klein via his Blogspot. History of Robotics, which, judging from the title alone, might involve the Jones family, or at the very least the factory they were built from. And who knows, an episode that involves body odor. Hey, Editor Kirby here to tell you one piece of info in regard to Robot Jones that I somehow forgot to bring up when I wrote this video script. But to put it simply, Greg did have a plan for how he wanted to end the show, with Robot rallying or building a robot army to overthrow humanity. I don't know why I glossed that detail over when writing this video, but I'm at the very least glad I gave myself enough time to bring it up regardless. Anyway, back to the video. There are also rumors surrounding 2 episodes that were supposed to air as part of the show's second season, those being Risk and Robot Graffiti, with the only known confirmation that we have of these being through a leaked episode guide on TVTome.com back in 2003, which was around the time Season 2 was being produced. No one knows what happened to these episodes, whether they were scrapped or the plots were repurposed into something completely different. But judging from their existence being labeled unconfirmed by the Lost Media Wiki, I feel like we have another special ed type of situation on our hands. The real reason why CN decided to end Robot Jones remains clouded in mystery to this day, but I might have a little theory on what contributed to the show's cancellation, and that involves the mysterious Mr. Enter.
And the entire show, as I mentioned, is designed to look like a late 70s cartoon. And by and large, I think that was a major mistake.
No, it has nothing to do with his Robot Jones video, but rather an earlier CN Real episode he did talking about sheep in the big city, particularly around the 4:33 mark of the runtime, where he brought up the show's change in schedule during its run, especially after the programming block Adult Swim launched.
Keep in mind, I am going off memory here, but I do remember its time slot being when Adult Swim started. And after that, the network put sheep in all the most random-ass times and, for no reason, which is weird.
In addition, if you check the pages for each episode on the Robot Jones fandom wiki, you'll get a good look at when each of them came on time slot-wise. It is even evident in the show's marketing.
Premieres Friday at 9:30 on Cartoon Network.
It's an all-new episode of Whatever Happened to Robot Jones, Friday at 11.
To be fair, this cartoon premiered post-Adult Swim, but it's still odd that a show Cartoon Network had hoping from the start slowly began shelving it further back until there's no point in return. It happened to sheep in the big city, and it happened to Whatever Happened to Robot Jones. At least that's why I think Robot Jones got canned. Post-Cancellation, Robot Jones would continue to live on in reruns as part of the Cartoon Show, a programming block dedicated to airing various Cartoon Network originals. Here's where things get strange, as the majority of the reruns of Season 1 episodes that aired from 2005 to 2006 featured Bobby Block's voice dubbing over the automated voice, implying that the network sees these original airings as obsolete.
It's so weird how you almost never see this nowadays. That's completely unheard of.
It is thanks to this choice that led to the text-to-speech voice versions of the show's first season being pretty hard to find for years, to the point of catching the attention of the lost media community. What's funny to me is that I first discovered the show as far back as November of 2011, with my first episode being the Bobby Block version of the episode Vacuum Friend, which was back when everyone online was digging through as many tapes as they can to see if those old recordings of the pre-2005 Season 1 episodes are still out there. If anything, learning about all of this might have been my first ever exposure to lost media before knowing that term existed. Thankfully, all the original Season 1 airings have been found, albeit varying quality, so proceed with caution if you're ever curious. And despite not lasting that long, it did manage to air in certain territories such as the UK, Canada, Latin America, along with a select few dubbed localizations of the show, including the official Hindi dub.
Good morning, Mom Unit.
Good morning, Beta Robo.
मैं अपने हर रोज के प्रोग्राम के लिए तैयार हूँ.
This dub is nice and all, but it'll never live up to the certified hood classic that is Hadi Mera Buddy, particularly the English version.
A for apple.
Very good.
B for ball.
Very good.
C for cat.
Very good.
H for house.
Not so good.
This middle schooler made of metal would even make occasional cameos once in a blue moon, starting with the Dexter's Lab episode, Oh Brother. But his most notable appearances outside of his own territory would be the OKKO episode Crossover Nexus and the Jellystone special Crisis on Infinite Murphs. Beyond that, Whatever Happened to Robot Jones never got a proper home video release, but you can watch the show in its entirety, legally, via certain streaming services as of April of 2022, mostly through the Latin American versions of HBO Max, Amazon, and Apple TV. But for those of you who lack a VPN and don't feel like going through all that hassle, YouTube and the Internet Archive are only a few clicks away. Just saying. As for the creator of Robot Jones himself, Greg Miller would continue to work in the animation industry on a multitude of projects, and along with it came 2007's The Wizard of Crud, about a teen boy living in a wizard's castle, and going on all sorts of adventures through a world of fantasy. Wacky hijinks ensue!
Hey guys, you're just in time to join the party!
This short is mostly notable for being part of Nicktoons Network's compilation series, Shorts in a Bunch, specifically the 6th episode which aired in September of that year. While nothing came out of Wizard of Crud beyond this point, I still got some enjoyment out of it regardless. I especially liked how it kept a good chunk of elements that made the visual identity of Robot Jones so unique and charming. Nowadays, Greg is currently working at Nickelodeon as a sheet timer for the SpongeBob SquarePants spin-off series, The Patrick Star Show, as of the show's 2nd season. While not the first time he's worked on this franchise, as that credit goes as far back as Blackened Sponge from SpongeBob's 5th season, it is still nice to know that the guy is still doing work after all these years. Data log entry. Whatever happened to Robot Jones may not be everyone's cup of tea. Heck, it might not even be your cup of tea. But for a show that only lasted a year across 2 seasons, the amount of information that has been publicly available over the years in regard to how it came about and how it ended is living proof that even the shortest lived projects have a big story to tell. A story about how a college dropout made a cartoon that its network of origin had faith in making into reality. But as time kept ticking, as the network changed, so did their feelings towards Robot Jones. And despite production for the show still going strong, the executives just felt like not wanting to do more with it anymore, even after requesting a little change that they felt like making a big deal out of. Still, even before and after knowing all of this, I still consider Robot Jones to be one of my favorite Cartoon Network originals. From the visuals, to the characters, to the stories it tells, to the topics being discussed, etc., there's truly no other cartoon of its kind that pulls it off quite like how the show does it. Obviously, Robot Jones isn't an entirely perfect show, but it's one of those animated projects where its weaker offerings doesn't wholly sour the viewing experience for me personally. Final analysis? Here's to whatever happened to Robot Jones. A cartoon that did the best it could to be what it always wanted to be, even if those visions didn't translate well in execution.
And don't forget about me.